Hi, I'm Jeff Ludy. You're watching Ask Jeff, a YouTube channel devoted to educate, empower, and encourage entrepreneurs, and I'm so glad you're watching. If you have a question for me, send it to ask@jeffludy.com. Today's video, I want to talk to you about taking the fear out of meeting with the boss. Taking fear out of meeting with the boss. So, have you ever, I've been an employee, I'm an entrepreneur, so I've been both, right? But have you ever been called into the boss's office? I remember when I was in school, I used to get called into the principal's office, and I knew that was not because of some great academic achievement, making me a substitute teacher for the day. I usually was in trouble. In fact, for the longest time, I didn't like coffee. I did not like drinking coffee. Isn't that crazy? My father-in-law said, Jeff, you're in sales, you got to drink coffee. And I'm like, why don't I like drinking coffee? One day it dawned on me, the smell of coffee, I associated the smell of coffee with being in the principal's office. And when I went to the principal's office, I got swats. Once I realized that, thank God for therapy, Dr. Phil, Oprah, and all these others, I'm now okay, and I love drinking coffee. Probably too much coffee. So how do you deal with, as an employer, right? As a leader, how do you communicate effectively, but try to take the suspense and the fear and the carelessness out of dealing with people? I have a way I like to do it, and I'm going to tell you what I do, and maybe this will help you someday. So let's suppose that I have to have a conversation with someone, and there's nothing bad to talk about, or maybe there's a few things that have to be chatted about, but this is not the end of the road for them. I want to make it easy. I want to say, hey Tom, can you come to my office for a minute? And they're like, okay. I come to the office. As soon as they walk in, I'd like to start with, hey Tom, you're not getting fired. Everything's good, but we do need to talk about a couple of things. And then I will go into what it is we need to talk about. Right away when I said, Tom, you're not getting fired, everything's okay, but I do want to talk to you about a couple of things, Tom now realizes, whew, okay, good. And it actually brings Tom into the meeting being a little more objective to seeing things from my point of view, because he realizes that the end result of this is for me and Tom to work this out, to grow together. I want people who work for me to be coachable, to be teachable, to be willing to adapt and to change and to grow in the environment that they're in. And for me to do that, I have to be able to say, when it's bad, it's bad. When it's good, it's okay, but we need to fix it. Let's talk about it. So come right in, have a seat. This is a good conversation. You're not getting fired. Everything's okay, but there are a few things that I want us to talk about. That's ideal. Now, on the other hand, and most of the time, people suspect that there's a problem when you bring them in to terminate them, right? Because they've already been coached, they've already been talked to, and they know that this is still occurring, and this is probably going to happen. So it's an automatic assumption when they know they're already flirting with disaster, that if you call them into your office to visit with them, especially if you close the door, above all things, that this is probably the end. And I remember one time, this is probably 25 years ago when I was a fairly young employer, there was a guy who was going to terminate, and I started giving him all the reasons, and he stopped me and he said, am I getting fired? And I thought, you know what? Yes, you're getting fired. I guess I didn't have to give him all the reasons. I could have just fired him, but I'm the kind of guy that likes to help people understand. So that changed how I do it. Now, instead, if I do have to terminate someone, and it could be terminating an employee, but it could also be having a difficult conversation with a vendor. I'm not going to be buying your products from you anymore, or whatever. I like to start with the end in mind and bring that up first. I think that removes the fear and the tension from the conversation, and it makes everyone a little more understanding. Plus, I'm not wasting my time on somebody who, if I tell them they're terminated, decides they don't even want to talk to me anymore. So, not that I wouldn't want to talk, but what if they don't? What if it upsets them and they want to leave? So here's how I start. Hey, come in, Tom, have a seat. So Tom, I want to talk to you, and at the end of this conversation, I'm going to ask you to leave employment at XYZ company. And I want to give you the reasons why. You say that, they understand. Okay, that's it. Can you imagine going to the doctor and he starts with, hey, have a seat, I want to talk to you. This is bad news, you've got cancer. But I want to stop for a minute and explain to you what happened, where we are, and what we're going to do about it. There'd be some relief then for him to call you in and spend time with the doctor, and he's going through all these charts and showing you all this stuff. You're like, do I have cancer? Right? So I would encourage you, in any relationship you have that's worth spending the time to sit down and talk with somebody about it, that you start with reassuring them that everything's okay, but here's the things we need to talk about, and then also close with reassuring them about everything's okay, but we need to fix these things. Or if it is the end, start with that. Hey, Tom, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to ask you to take your stuff and leave because you're not going to be working here anymore. And I'd like to explain to you how I arrived at this decision. I think people respect that. And I think part of being a great leader is being respectful of their feelings and treating people the way you would want to be treated as well. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you never have to say to somebody, this is it, you're gone. But if you do, think about starting with the hard news first and then explaining why. If you have a question for me, send it to ask@jeffludy.com. Hope you have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like. That'll help YouTube make sure that other entrepreneurs see the same content you're watching today. Have a good day. We'll talk again real soon.